Chapter 23. Maternity. The life of a human begins as a simple cell, subject as is natural to the extraordinarily speedy time of living cells. Conception, gestation, and birth are always a marvelous and remarkable trio with which any creature begins life. It is really surprising to know that our first moments of existence we should live in the infinitely small, converted each of us in a simple microscopic cell. We begin to exist in the form of an insignificant cell, and we end life old, ancient, and overburdened with memories. The ego is memory. Many old people do not live even remotely in the present. Many elderly people live only remembering the past. Every old person is nothing but a voice and a shadow. Every elderly person is phantom of the past, accumulated memory, and this is what continues in the genes of our descendants. Human conception is initiated with extraordinarily speedy times, but through the different processes of life, they become slower and slower each time. For many of our readers, it is convenient to remember the relativity of time. The insignificant insect that only lives a few hours in a summer afternoon seems to have hardly lived. Rather, it really lives all that a man lives in 80 years. What happens is that it lives swiftly. A man lives in 80 years everything that a planet lives in millions of years. When the zoosperm unites with the egg, gestation begins. The cell with which human life begins contains 48 chromosomes. The chromosomes are divided into genes. 100 of the latter or more certainly constitute that which is a chromosome. Genes are very difficult to study because each is constituted by a few molecules that vibrate with inconceivable speed. The marvelous world of genes consulted an intermediate zone between the tridimensional world and the world of the fourth dimension. The atoms of inheritance are found in the genes. The psychological ego of our ancestors comes to impregnate the fertilized egg. In this era of electrotechnics and atomic science, it is not in any way exaggerated to affirm that the electromagnetic mark left by an ancestor that exhaled his last breath has come to imprint itself in the genes and chromosomes of the egg fertilized by a descendant. The path of life is formed with the tracks of the hooves of the horse of death. During the course of existence, different types of energy flow through the human organism. Each type of energy has its own system of action. Each type of energy is manifested in its time and in its hour. We have the digestive function at 2 months of conception, and at 4 months of conception, the motor force comes into action, so intimately related with the breathing and muscular systems going into action. The scientific spectacle of birth and death of all things is wonderful. Many sages affirm that there exists an intimate analogy between the birth of a human creature and the birth of the worlds in the sidereal space. The child is born in 9 months. At 10 months begins the growth with all its wonderful metabolisms and the symmetric and perfect development of conjunctive tissues. When the frontal fontanelle of newborns closes at 2 or 3 years of age, it is a sign that the cerebrospinal system has been left perfectly finished. Many scientists have said that nature has imagination, which gives living form to everything that has been and everything that will be. Multitudes of people laugh at imagination, and some even call it the lunatic of the house. There exists much confusion around the word imagination, and there are many who confuse imagination with fantasy. Certain sages say that 2 imaginations exist. The first is called mechanical imagination, and the second intentional imagination. The first one is made up of the scrap of the mind, and the second corresponds to what is most worthy and decent inside us. Through observation and experience, we have been able to verity that there also exists a type of mechanical, morbid, infraconscious and subjective sub-imagination. This type of automatic sub-imagination functions below the intellectual zone. Erotic images, morbid movies, risque stories with double meanings, morbid jokes, etc., often put to work in an unconscious way the mechanical sub-imagination. In-depth analysis has taken us to the logical conclusion that erotic dreams and wet dreams are due to the mechanical sub-imagination. Absolute chastity is impossible while there exists the mechanical sub-imagination. By any reckoning, it is perfectly clear that conscious imagination is radically different from that which is called subjective, infraconscious, subconscious mechanical imagination. Any representation can be perceived in a self-exalting and dignifying way, but sub-imagination of a mechanical, infraconscious, subconscious, unconscious type can betray us, automatically functioning with sensual, passionate, submerged shades and images. If we want in-depth, unitotal, integral chastity, we need to watch not only the conscious imagination, but also the mechanical imagination and the unconscious, automatic, subconscious, submerged sub-imagination. We should never forget the intimate relation existent between sex and imagination. Through in-depth meditation, we should transform every type of mechanical imagination, every form of sub-imagination and automatic infra-imagination into objective conscious imagination. Objective imagination is, in itself, essentially creative. Without it, inventors could not have conceived the telephone, the radio, the airplane, etc. A woman's imagination during pregnancy is fundamental for the development of the fetus. It has been demonstrated that every mother can, with her imagination, alter the psyche of the fetus. It is urgent that a woman during pregnancy contemplates beautiful paintings, sublime sceneries, and listen to classical music and harmonious words. In this way, she can harmoniously work on the psyche of the baby she carries inside her. One has to know how to excuse all the whims and errors of a pregnant woman. Many intolerant men, lacking true understanding, become angry and hurt a pregnant woman. The sorrows of this woman, the afflictions caused by the husband for lack of charity, have repercussions on the gestating fetus, not only physically, but also psychically. Bearing in mind the power of creative imagination, it is logical to affirm that a woman during pregnancy should not contemplate what is ugly, disagreeable, disharmonious, filthy, etc. The hour has arrived which governments should be concerned about resolving the great problems related to maternity. It is incongruous that in a society that prides itself on being Christian and democratic, it does not know how to respect and venerate the religious sense of maternity. It is monstrous to see thousands of women who are pregnant without any type of support, abandoned by their husbands and society, begging a piece of bread or a job, and executing, many times, rough manual jobs in order to be able to survive with the baby they carry within. These infrahuman states of today's society, this cruelty and lack of responsibility of governing officials and of nations, are indicating to us with entire clarity that democracy still does not exist. Hospitals with their maternity rooms have still not solved the problem because women can only go to said hospitals when labor approaches. Collective homes are needed with urgency true garden cities endowed with halls and residences for women who are pregnant and extremely poor. Clinics and kindergartens for their children are also needed. These collective homes with lodging for extremely poor women who are pregnant, filled with all types of comforts, flowers, music, harmony, beauty, etc. It would totally solve the great problem of maternity. We should understand that human society is a great family and that someone else's problems do not exist, since every problem in one way or another affects within its respective circle all the members of society. It is absurd to discriminate against pregnant women because of their being extremely poor. It is criminal to underestimate them, to scorn them, or to put them aside in homes for poverty-stricken people. In this society in which we live, there cannot be children and stepchildren because all of us are human beings and we have the same rights. We need to create true democracy if we really do not want to be devoured by communism.